Hi, this one is in English. I've just done an hour ago shirtlessly, like Damarato, who lives here in Thailand too, a comment on a Brad Warner YouTube clip in German. And this one I will do in English because I think why not have a video warning uh, relating to Brad Warner out. I'm not a native speaker, but I will try my best spontaneously, and I let him talk in the background because I don't cut my videos if you've never seen one. And you will hear him answer a question of a guy about his enlightenment experience. He hesitates to talk about it. He did it once, I think, in a book. He described it in pretty common analogies and terms, I think, and now he gives some answers and a comparison, which is revealing, I think. Please listen.
Question, but I think it's a little bit more like, and this is not a great analogy, it's not my favorite analogy, but it's a little bit more like asking somebody, what does it feel like to fall in love? And the same way as with these sort of Kensho or enlightenment experiences, I'm putting scare quotes here, you might think you've fallen in love a few times, and then when you actually fall in love, then you'll realize, oh, I was wrong about those times before. That wasn't really it.
So let's quiet him for a while, but I leave the video on because in about 3 minutes he says something more I want to comment on. So first of all, this comparison is, he says it himself, he doesn't like it, but why does he come up with this? Actually, I know this, and probably you all know it. You have been in love before. If you're young, maybe not, but you will probably experience the same. And then you look back and think, I was so sure this is the biggest love of my life, and it disappeared. So this is, of course, not only a Buddhist knowledge, but also wisdom of the Greek and so on. Everything is in flux, everything disappears. Also our love stories. Now there is some great eternal love stories in life, maybe the one of your parents or what, I know, but this is a common thing. So if you compare Kensho with this, you would just say this enlightenment experience or a glimpse into enlightenment. If Kensho is the small one and Satori is the big one, some believe you have a lot of small ones and maybe finally the big one. It would be nothing different from the world of the suffering, the things that disappear, the things you suffer from. So this analogy must be wrong if Kensho is something special, but I don't want to say that it can wear off. No, the insight you have into something, I would just prefer to call it insight. It can wear off, but it's not like the foolishness or the illusion that love is. If it would be, why would we talk about it? So I've already finished this part of my comment, so I will try to find the other part where he is stuck into Dogen. What he does is he tries to answer everything from Dogen's writings, that is mainly the Shobogenzo. Well, Dogen has written a lot. He does not reflect that in his YouTube career, but he comments a lot on the Shobogenzo. The worst clip I've seen so far from him is about Taoism and Zen, where he rejects the question of the influence just by quoting Dogen and his rant against Lao Tzu, Chuang-Tzu, Confucius, and so on. This is pretty ridiculous. I recommend the work of David Hinton and others. There's a lot of Buddhological work about this. So he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it because he's so much blinded by Dogen and his Japanese way of thinking about the Chan. He saw briefly when he was in China that he doesn't get it. So let's see if I get the right second part of it, the clip.
Storehouse of experiences, of things things we've done of accomplishments. So it's like I was the quarterback on the big game when my high school football team won the tournament. Now I'm 55 years old and I'm fat and I'm sitting here drinking beer, but I've got that trophy on the wall. So it's like we want to keep it as a trophy that we can put on our wall and display and tell everybody we've been enlightened. Absolutely anything can be used by the ego as a way to kind of build itself up. So even the experience...
I keep him in the bag. I thought it was at minute 7. But that's another typical point that a lot of teachers talk about. And actually the Koan school in Japan that was reformed by Hakuin is built on it. There are different qualities of Koan and they get more difficult, and then there is a practice after enlightenment. And they also believe that the real enlightenment experience makes you somehow stupid and arrogant and run around waving with it.
The realization that the ego is false. You can get to that point where you're like, yeah, I've realized my ego is false, and be just as much of a dick about that as you are about any other accomplishment. In an essay called San Sui Gyo, which means the Mountains and Waters Sutra, Dogen says this: every realization, and in the Nishijima Cross version, realization is put in quotes, is an instance of object and subject. We do not esteem such realizations as the Buddhist ancestors' action in the state of truth. They are one-sided and narrow views. And actually, the phrase translated as one-sided and narrow views is...
Well, you see, he goes on a lot about this ego problem. If you think this is true, just read a lot of Koan stories and find out what they want to tell you. And if this is not a more modern notion of what is going on. And actually Dogen is a bad example for that. No? He insisted to be enlightened and have a document by his Chinese teacher. He seemed to have an ego problem himself. No? So let's see if I find the other part.
Having the realization. And what we're talking about when we talk about actual realization is when everything comes together in one. Now, there is a sense in which it is like an experience. There are experiences that happen where you have a momentary glimpse of that sort of unity. And then you kind of come back here, and when you're here, you can kind of say, oh, I had that glimpse of momentary unity. But I think it's important not to get too hung up on those. And it's really easy to get hung up on those. I'm talking from my...
So here it is, you see. I find him talking like someone with a drug experience now, because he separates the Kensho, Satori, whatever experience he had from being here, which is pretty strange to me. It would tell others that if they still feel they're here right and now, that this cannot be enlightenment, because this Brett Warner guy is an official Zen teacher, is saying, you come back here, you come back here. How is that possible? Let's listen.
Things they've won that they can show off later and go, look, I got all these trophies. But that is probably the best way to kill any sort of benefit you could get from these sorts of experiences. So the next question is, how might your worldview change as a result? Well, okay, let's just say you have...
You see what the viewer wants to know, typical questions. And his main answer is, if you experience it, you're not there. I think now we actually know that the experience Brett Warner had is different from what is transmitted through the koan, what the koan want to tell us when, you know, you sweep the ground of a Zen monastery or what, and the pebble stone hits the bamboo stick, and there it is. You understand? You're actually in the moment. You're actually doing something. You're not somewhere else, and you don't have to come back. What he wants to avoid here is saying that he himself, his ego or his personal mind or brain, was involved in the process of detecting something. He wants to avoid that trap. I actually don't know anymore where the quote was, where Dogen said something about this, and he seemed to warn to at the same time not to make too much of it, of course. But Dogen himself, he was not only the abbot of temples, he was also leaning towards regions or sponsors, to keep the thing going. He was keen at a later stage especially not only to bash some of the most important Mahayana Buddhists like Vimalakirti, or Zen Buddhists like Linji, or the Taoists, but also to insist that the monks are somehow above the laity. And of course, you know that he was qualified. He got his teacher and the original Chan tradition from China. So his life, if you ask about practice, how to practice Zen, Dogen's life was actually telling you that he was not always doing what he preached in his Shobogenzo, in the better parts of the Shobogenzo, not to talk about the others. So I wanted to do this in English, sorry, but the Germans, if they understand me, they probably like or dislike it. If they don't understand, they won't understand my sorry either. I think a warning is in place now. After so many years, I've watched this and that clip. I've not subscribed to Warner, but he pops up due to my algorithm, and I've just seen that really uninformed, stupid clip about the non-involvement of Taoism with Chan. But of course he says Zen and he means Dogen, and Dogen doesn't get it either. And it's now become clear, that he always just grabs the Shobogenzo and has marked quotes of Dogen there, as if Dogen had it all. Very strange, very strange. And somehow he's marketing himself as a Zen master. Well, have a nice day.